Hi everyone, just a quick call of action to everyone. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell icon to make sure you don't miss anything coming up on the channel, including guests, live stream watch-alongs. If you like this guest video, make sure you smash that like button so it really helps the algorithm and get this show going on all platforms. Hope you enjoyed today's video. It's that time in the show in the RBL Talk segment where I have a special guest for you all today. Welcome to the guest. Welcome, Scott.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's really appreciated.
You're more than welcome. Please tell the listeners and also the viewers watching this on YouTube a little bit about yourself.
Right, so born in Glasgow, stay just outside of Glasgow. Celtic fan, I think that's your next question anyway, but I might as well just swing them into one. Celtic fan all my days. I know you've spoke to a couple of guys, spoke to Hamish and spoke to the 90 Minute Tim guys. You know yourself, you're a football fan. Football fans pass down to you, isn't it? I mean, I read your story, same as you. My dad, my mum, everybody all support Celtic. And that's it. And Celtic's massive part of my life. Football, as you can see kind of behind me, football in general is a massive part of my life. You work to enjoy yourself, and I enjoy football. So I wish I had more to tell you. Now I say that, I sound kind of boring, but I'm just a football head.
So you do a podcast as well, that is correct?
We do indeed, yeah. I got into podcasting a good long while ago. See, I'd say, when was that? About 2009 we started podcasting, and we done a show, just as you can imagine, just a Celtic show, and then it kind of faded away, and there was one called the HomeBhoys, and that's kind of the longest one, along with Celtic Underground, one of the longest ones going. And they kind of, you know yourself, guys come and go, they have families, they have different things, and Joe, who's a kind of mainstay of the show, he was doing it himself, and I says, Joe, I enjoyed that, I'll come on. And ever since, we do that podcast. So we do a thing called the HomeBhoys, and if you ever get a chance to listen to it, and I don't know why anybody would, it's basically a bunch of guys who would sit, we swear, we go off tangent, we talk about things randomly, we argue a hell of a lot, and we like to have a wee bevy, we like to have a wee drink when we're doing it as well. So it's kind of mad, and generally the shows go on between 2 and 4 hours. I mean, during COVID, longer than 4 hours. But interested you, Justin, because I'd hoped we would tie in, but it never worked. But maybe next time. I do one myself on the back of the show, and I talk to away fans, to guys like you, and I get to know about your team exactly the same way you do it, and I love them. As a football nerd, I absolutely love them. See, talking about proper guys like yourself, guys who support your team, and it's no journalist, it's like all coming for the heart. So I do that as well, and it's called Room 1-on-1. And I like doing them. So yeah, we do the podcast.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Be yourself. That is the way I like all these RBL Talk guests to go. So if you're going to drop a couple of swears, no issue with that.
Right, okay. I think we're by the first minute. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, exactly. Listeners and viewers, you've been warned.
I'm trying my best.
So you were doing podcasting really before it started taking off, in modern day times. Yeah.
I said 2009. I'll caveat that and say probably 2010, maybe 11. But we certainly done it way back when it first kicked off, when it was because at that point you had, in Celtic terms, you had the Celtic Underground, you had the HomeBhoys, and you had the Lost Boys. And they were the 3 guys, and then we done one, we were the temporary stand. So we done it for ages. But like I say, same as myself, work, children, just life gets in the way. But it was, I as you can tell, you've just met me, Justin. I like to talk, so.
That's all right. With these segments, mate, it's the guest that does all this
Exactly,
stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're more than welcome to talk and say as much and as long as you need. No issues with that whatsoever. So I want to ask a little bit like how you came about supporting your club. Like we sort of touched on it a little bit there with, yeah, so it was like brought down from, family or friends. You sort of brought up around that, that whole environment, like you go out to on a Saturday or something like that, you go down to the game and you really enjoy the atmosphere. Can you tell me a little bit about how you really became about a Celtic fan and really when you sort of fell in love with the club?
Right, so like I said, it's funny to kind of go off on a wee tangent to come back on myself. My brother-in-law is from Sicily. And he's an Inter Milan supporter, Internazionale. Yet his brother supports Juventus, and his other brother supports Roma, and his dad supports Milan. And I remember we went to the wedding, and I was blown away with this. I was like, how do these all support different teams? So I don't like bringing it up with regards Celtic, but it is true. We had the Catholic Protestant thing, and I grew up a Catholic. You're in a Catholic school. When I went to school, met one Rangers fan, and amazingly, he was a mad one. He was thrown out of school, so kind of summed up. But so everybody supports Celtic. I mean, I remember growing up. I'm old, Justin. I'm an old guy now. I remember in the 80s wanting to support Aberdeen because Aberdeen were good. Do you know what I mean? Aberdeen were winning leagues and winning European competitions, and I supported all Celtic. But so I get brought up Celtic fans. All my friends around me Celtic fans. And then as you move up, you start kind of broad. The people out in the street, you're meeting Rangers fans, different, and all mixes. And I was very much like other people. I took interests away from football. But I'd say back in my early teens, I got back into it. I started, and then me and my friends would go to the infrequent game ourselves. At this point, my dad had stopped taking me. So my dad used to take me and my brother, and then he would take us to smaller games and stuff. I mean, interestingly enough, like, I don't know if you can see, I've got Borussia Dortmund stuff around here.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah. The first game I can remember going to was in 1987 when Celtic beat Borussia Dortmund 2-1. And funnily enough, seeing that game, when I go to Dortmund to see these, and I'll argue with the boys, and I'll say, I've only ever seen Borussia Dortmund lose one game, and they're like, what game? And I was like, Celtic beat you. I was like, oh. Now they've got the last laugh in fairness, but that's by and by. So as I got older, just me and my friends, we started going, and then you want to go to the away games, and the away games are more fun, and then you get to 17, 18, you start drinking, and it's a wee bit more fun, and then it's just never stopped, Justin, to be honest. It's never really stopped. It's in there, and it's not going to go away, even though sometimes I want it to go away, like when Borussia Dortmund beat me 7-1, but alas.
Well, that's the downfalls, I guess you could say, of being an actual true fan of a football club or supporter, depending on, certain areas in world football. Some people say fan, some people say supporter, some people it's both. And, if you get thrashed or you lose, you still stand by your team and you support 100%. The team no matter what, because, once you start falling in love with a football club, you just can't stop that. And that's one of the things that a lot of people that don't like RB Leipzig, because as you would know, that we are not the most liked club in European football, and there are actual proper supporters out there and fans that actually love the club and don't really care about the whole Red Bull thing, and yes, it's annoying about 50-1 and all that stuff, but we actually love the club. It's not that we are all customers or something like that. We actually love the club itself.
It's a really interesting take, because I think you are legitimately the first RB Leipzig fan I have properly spoke to. Now, I've been doing my wee opposition podcast for a good wee while, and I struggled to get an RB fan. And I wanted, and obviously, and I opened up to my Befa mates, and they're like, we don't know anybody. and the ironic thing is, I would sit during Bayern Munich's total dominance of the league. I would sit and say to them, well, surely a club coming in who have got the infrastructure and the foresights to challenge in this league, surely that's better than not having them. No, right? So there's no winning on that, right? And okay, I may be indulging it as well, but what you said there, you're a fan. So what makes you, what makes you loving your team any stronger because they've got 80,000 or 1 million or 2 million? What makes it any stronger? What makes it stronger for the guys going to see Tennis Borussia and the 4,000 or whatever going? What makes them any less fans than us? No, you love your club and that's it. No, I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and I think a little bit of some fans in the Bundesliga are probably in a little bit of denial that they, as something that they despise so much, could actually have proper loyal and fans and decent people and things like that. Like before I started the podcast, I won't go too far into it, but we got hammered by Dortmund in the DFB Pokal, and and I was looking for English fans and friends and supporters and things like that, and I went over onto the social media and wasn't a thing, and I've been getting up at early hours of the morning and watching RB Leipzig games because I want to, and I'd stay awake or I wake up early to purposely watch these games. So it's 2:55 a.m. now my time live as recording this, and I've literally just finished work, and like if I wasn't doing the podcast, I'd still be watching an RB Leipzig game if it was on. So for instance, we've played Gladbach on Sunday. That'll be another 4 a.m. game for me. So I should say,
no, they're rotten.
Yeah, hopefully. I will quickly correct that though. It's 4 a.m. Sunday morning for me. It's actually Saturday night for locals over in Leipzig. Yeah, from the time zone difference. Considering for you, it'll still only just be late afternoon, something reasonable. So
I might sit down and have a wee beer for it.
more than welcome if you'd like to. So you've always been a supporter of Celtic, is that correct? That's not BVB support there. It's rubbing it in that you've beaten BVB. Is that right?
No. I would say that. Well, we're going to get political now, right? We're going to get a wee bit political now. So, like I said, I kind of grew up. I didn't have a second team. I supported Celtic all the way through. But Borussia Dortmund was a club I don't know, I kind of always liked. I never really took much an interest, but I liked them. And then eventually, me and my friend, we took our wives and we went over. And we had this fantastic time, met a few people. I went back over, then I went back over again, and by this point I'd got friends with these guys and they'd got me tickets for the Yellow Wall and stuff, and I've repeated that, and now I've kind of took my friends over, so they're all friends, and then like when I was 40 I took 30 guys over, we went all stayed in Dusseldorf, and then we got them all tickets, and we all went to, and there's a good connection between Celtic and Dortmund, so honestly I've got a feeling for the club there. I definitely got it. The Palestine stuff, I understand why the club has taken an approach. I find it sore. I find it sore. And then, is it Rheinmetall, the sponsorship with the arms dealer thing? My friends don't see it. They just see it as income to the club, and that's fine. I won't, but I'll be honest, it's hurt my relationship with the club, but that's because of me. They've made the decision that's good for them. It's me, so I've maybe took a wee step back on it. And then that 7-1, that hurt. I was in the stadium. Oh, horrendous, man. Come back to your earlier point, seeing your team get demolished like that, it's hard, and considering we're in Scotland and we're often doing that to other teams, it's a mad aye. So like I say, without wanting to really go right into it, my relationship with Borussia Dortmund, not my friends, my friends, they still love their club and I still love them, but the club, a wee step back.
So I've asked another guest on the show already, but I still like asking these guests because these questions, what I'm about to ask you, is because getting another take on someone else's perspective is not always going to be the exact same, even if it's from two exact Celtic supporters. And someone even asked me one day, like, oh, why do I ask someone else the same question? And that's exactly the reason why. You know, you may think that this is the style of play or this is the manager or anything like that, and then it's completely different, or likewise on how they feel about a manager. So that is actually my next question. So we know Brendan Rodgers is your current manager. Now, what about him? What is his style of play in your perspective? And also, what are your own personal thoughts on Brendan Rodgers?
Ha! The blessed Brendan. Oh, it's funny. Again, we done a podcast the day he left. We done one that night. And when he was reported to come back, I went back and listened to it. And we're talking about swearing. Now, if you want to hear a lot of swear words, you can go back and listen to that. He was called for all sorts. But I thought we were pretty fair in everything. Because as a Celtic fan, we know where we stand in world football. It's not nice because we think ourselves as one of the biggest clubs in the world. However, our standing isn't way up there. Okay, we get it. Brendan Rodgers made a choice to leave Celtic and go back to the Premier League. And it worked well for a while, ended up, hence why he's back. I think he's a very talented manager. Does he talk one load of rubbish? He talks so much rubbish, it's unbelievable. He comes out, we call it belters over here, he comes out with some belters. But there is no doubting, man management well, and tactically, he knows what he's doing. The first time he was at Celtic, we come off a pretty poor season under Ronnie Dyer, and he came in and he wanted to play up the park very quickly. So we were almost, without being a counter-attack, but we were just very quick, not dissimilar to Ange, right? At his first year, boom, we were away up the park and we were beating teams because we were turning them, overlapping fullbacks, incoming wingers, inverted wingers. And then the next season, all slowed down. He wanted to hold possession. He wanted to win games because he had the ball and he had the better players. Now, after Ange again, we had this time. Brendan Rodgers wants to play, and it's not possession football in terms of we just keep the ball, but he wants to play. He wants to have more possession. He wants to influence the game from us. He doesn't want to react to the game. That's how I see it. I mean, is there an easy way of kind of... He likes his pressing. He likes his winning the ball. He likes us having the ball. He likes dictating the ball. And once we come to the game, it will kind of make sense what I'm saying. But coming from Scotland and going into Europe, sometimes that doesn't correlate, especially for Scotland. Because in Scotland we'll have 70% of the ball. Generally in Europe we don't. We'll have 40% of the ball. Generally, you know. So I think we're still a work in progress. But he's certainly a possession-based manager. He wants to be that. However, he still wants that same press. He wants to win the ball. He wants to dictate the ball. He wants to play in your half. I don't know what style of football you would call that, but that's how he wants it. I hope that's what the other guy said.
We will get into the game very shortly, but just the quick the fact here is 60% possession you had. You ended that game with the RBL Leipzig game, which is that's even what is the word I'm looking for here? That's even almost unheard of from an RB Leipzig perspective as well. Like we don't normally
really interesting.
We normally don't have a lot of people playing that much possession on us. Even the Man City games that we have played were at least I think around 55 or maybe a little bit more closer to even. And we're talking about Champions League of last season's of gone.
Yeah.
So, who is your club's star players and personal favourites? And also, you can be personal favourites of players of past and gone as well.
Wow. Who's the star player just now? So you can't disregard the Japanese guys. Japanese guys have been wild. Hatate, I've never seen anybody press like him. I've never seen anybody with the energy like him in my life. And I repeat, I'm an old guy. I have seen loads of guys and I've never seen anything like it. Can he have an absolute stinking game after a stunning game? Of course he can. That's why he's at Celtic. If he was consistent, he wouldn't be playing with us. You know, Kyogo, wee bit of an enigma there now because he's got so much quality. We had this first season where you've heard of Henrik Larsson. Henrik Larsson's like a god to Celtic. It's often been said, it's repeated on every podcast you listen to, the movement off of Kyogo Furuhashi is almost Larsson-esque. However, the past couple of years, he's not hitting the target. He's scoring a lot of goals, but he's not scoring the goals that you expect him to score. Do you know what I mean? So, but Kyogo's still a huge... I mean, there was links with Man City in the summer. I don't know how true, but it was panic stations for us. We're all like, don't care how much money you want to give us. He's huge important. And Hatate, obviously, Hatate was a guy who came in under the banner utility player. And if you're a football manager guy, you know utility player generally means somebody you can put anywhere. But the guy has, on his day, he is outstanding. Off his day, he's a man down. So, and then we bring in kind of guys like Arnie Engels, who's grown into himself. He's an important player as well. But after saying all these guys, for me, the best player we've got is Cameron Carter-Vickers in the back. He is so hugely, hugely important to our team. Absolutely huge. And I love him. He's my favourite. I think he's our most important player and I think he's our best player.
So what's your most memorable moment you've had as being a supporter of Celtic for so long? Like you keep saying, like you've been you're old apparently. You don't look that old to me, and I'm being honest.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
So out of all the years that you've been a Celtic supporter, what is your most memorable moment?
Right. So there's been loads. Yeah, I mean, Barcelona came to town as arguably the best team in the world, and Celtic won 2-1 and one awesomely good night. I mean, people can... It's funny, if you ever... I don't know if it would ever come across your Twitter and your social media, but off time, the stats from the game will pop up, and every time I see it, it seems we get less and less possession. But see what happened that game, which underestimates it, is we went there a week before, 2 weeks before maybe, and we get beat 2-1 in the last kick of the ball. We were 1-0 up in that game at the new camp. I was there that night, and we get beat by the last kick of the ball. Jordi Alba scored. And so we just had, and then they came and we knew how they were going to play. We knew they weren't going to swing balls in the box, so we played inverted fullbacks. We set up, we knew we had to punish them on corners, just as we did. And we had to we had a game plan, so however much you want to look at that and call it whatever it was, we had a game plan that day. But that was outstanding. Beating Liverpool at Anfield, I was there that day. Amazing. That was tremendous. Generally European. Tom Rodgers scoring under Brendan Rodgers, last kick of the ball against Aberdeen at Hampden is one of the great. I was there with some of my bestest friends in the world. Great times. Ironically, the game that means so much to me, I wasn't there. And there is a big story to go with it, but I'll not bore you. I had a ticket, I couldn't get a flight. We went to Boa Vista. We were 1-1 from the first leg. I got the jail in the first leg. Right? So, second leg, I had a ticket, couldn't get a flight, had to give my ticket away. And Celtic won 1-0, Henrik Larsson. And it was one of the greatest nights of my life. Absolutely. You've got to understand, you're a Leipzig, an RB fan who have been told what you can and can't do, and you guys keep smashing through the barriers and getting to where you get to. In my lifetime, I was told I would never see Celtic in a European final, and Celtic made a European final, and it was and I was there with my pals in the pub, and and obviously that led on to going to Seville, which was a fantastic experience, ultimately futile, but they days, European for Celtics, just up there. I mean, there's beating Rangers 6-2. That's always good as well.
That it is. Look, I like hearing from the Celtic fans, and especially you genuine ones. I have to try to get that out. I've actually got a speech impediment. Most people don't know that. So
you do well. It's generally sweary words.
I was born with one. It's not as bad these days, but I do sometimes struggle with some words. So there's a little fun fact
for you, my friend.
Little fun fact there for listeners and viewers of the podcast there. But it's really good to hear from genuine fans like yourselves, because you're very humble about about your European and your success as a football club, and you sort of, the way I look at it from my perspective, you downplay yourselves a little bit. Like, you are actually, for me, one of the top clubs in European football. You wouldn't say top club as in up there with the Real Madrid or Barcelona or whoever's won the most UEFA Champions League cups and stuff. But if I turn around and I look at European, I go, right, England and Scotland, all around the UK type area, Celtic is the only one that I even think of when I go to, when it comes to Scotland, So, and and you guys, and you guys are no slouches either when it comes to playing. Like, when you've lost, from what I've seen, besides, we won't bring up what happened recently, but besides a once in a blue moon game, you've never really been, really beaten, so to speak. Like, you've lost, but you haven't. Lost as in in a fashion of that's absolutely demoralizing or humiliating or anything like that. You've lost, but you've lost with dignity, I guess you could probably say. So
that I would say, however kind that is, it's lovely to hear that coming out of your mouth. I have to say that's brilliant, because you've just said what I think about my club. I hold Celtic away up there. I remember being in a bar in Dortmund, and they had a Celtic jersey up, and I said, look, and I nudged an old guy and I says, the greatest club in the world, and this guy says, no, Bedford Bear, the greatest. I was like, come on, Celtic. And I had about 4 guys arguing with me for the space of one cheeky remark. But with regards Europe, mate, I've seen some stinking results, right? Stinking. Yeah. So we've got the levels, right? So again, this all ties into the game this week. We had this Dortmund one recently. Barcelona have gave us 2 batterings. PSG beat us 7-1 after us leading in the first kick of the ball, right? But see, the A1s are sore. They're where footballers went to. They end up with super clubs, right? Because, like I say, I remember football was a lot tighter, and anybody came to Celtic Park, you thought you were going to beat them. But there's been some lows, man. We've got beat off at teams like Maribor, teams like Ferencvaros and stuff like that. We've stank the place out a good few times. But I would still like to think Celtic are enough of a draw that you don't think easy. But on the flip side, you go, that'll be a good trip. I can go over. We played Slovan Bratislava in the first game of this group, and I done a pod, like I was telling you, with a Slovan fan, and he told me he was coming over, and I says, so you come to Glasgow, you're looking forward to it, and he says, so can you tell me the best places to go in Glasgow with my jersey on, because I don't want to get into fights and stuff. And I says, you can walk into any bar in Glasgow with your jersey on. And he's like, no, Celtic bars. I'm like, no problem, you walk in, people will buy you a drink, because we don't like people coming on looking for fights. That's a different thing. But if you want to come on, you want to celebrate your team, come in here, I'll buy you a pint and it'll be good. So,
as long as you're not wearing a Rangers shirt, I think you're probably okay.
That's that one. That one's a bit iffy. Hamburg as well.
Yep. So, while we're actually talking about some the clubs and how we feel, how do you feel about us, as in RB Leipzig, the club, and be completely honest?
Well, obviously I'm biased because I have got the BFB links. Honestly, as a club, I don't have the same hatred of it that most German clubs do. As I say, maybe I'll throw it out there when I'm sitting with a good few German guys. What do you mean of this, right? Maybe try and get an argument going. But I don't hate them. And I think Celtic have got this wee rivalry going with you guys. Because that's like, since you guys have joined the European elite, we've played... We played recently under Rodgers, and obviously we played this year. Did we play before, or am I thinking Salzburg?
You played us.
We played the Europa.
Yeah, no. Last 3 years we played. It would have most likely been Salzburg. We played. I think it was still Champions League in 2022 when we played against Ange Postecoglou's team of Celtic.
Yeah, right. You played Ange's team, but we played before. Definitely, because I was in Leipzig.
Yes, before that we did a while
definitely
before
did.
that.
So
well.
this is like the third time around, right? This is the third time around, yeah. Because I never went last time, and I went the first time. Leipzig, by the way, what a place! Beautiful, man, beautiful. Underrated. No, as I say, I don't have the hatred of my mates. I certainly don't have the hatred of it. Meeting guys like you kind of dissipates any residual hatred I've got as well, because you've put a face on it, you've put a personality behind the club to me. In terms of football, you have to give it credit. You might be the biggest 50+1 fan in the world, but you have to give credit to the football structure, because it's not as if you're being backed to an unreasonable amount. It's not as if Red Bull, even though they're not really, you're not Red Bull.
Rasenball Sport.
Rasenball Sport, yeah. But it's not as if they're just pummeling money into you guys. Maybe in the early days they put a wee bit more money in this Vita League or the Vita League or whatever. Maybe they put that wee bit extra in. But Leipzig's a self-sustained element. We go and buy this guy, we sell it to them. We go and buy this guy, we sell him. So when I was doing my wee preview and looking at it, you don't have the big names that you've had in the past. And even the big names that you had in the past were big names because you made them big names. I mean, nobody was really talking about in Kunku until you guys... So, know what I mean? He was a reserve in Paris. So guys like Emil Forsberg, guys who I think are brilliant, maybe his time done now, but even Timo Werner, right? Timo Werner, I know he's kind of laughing stock. Timo Werner was picked up for Stuttgart when you guys were in the Zweitliga. So
yeah.
there needs, no matter how much they might not like you, there's got to be a respect put in your name, because you're a self-sustained club. Who, I mean, you could look around Europe and there's probably guys who have either started their youth career or played first team football and they're playing at top clubs. So there's respect there, mate. There's respect.
Nicholas Kuhn.
It's funny. One of my Dortmund mates, Andre, and maybe he'll have a wee gander. He'll not agree with me, but Andre's a football geek, right? He's from Dortmund, but he's a football nerd. And when we signed him, he told me all about him. Nicholas Kuhn, he's like, I remember him when he was in the under teams. He was going to be a superstar. He's kind of fell away. It'd be interesting to see how he goes. Do you know what I mean? So, but I actually had a wee look just this week to see who he played with when he was in your youth team, and there wouldn't have been that many guys who have actually come out. So for him to kind of turn up, blast for the past for you guys, eh?
Yes, it was a little bit disappointing to actually have, before we get into the game properly, but it was a little bit disappointing to have a youth system player that wasn't given the chance or wasn't built up and stayed at the club at the very least, because this is something that we could have been having for ourselves. Yeah. It's more of like it's like giving you guys a good player of ours, and then they're the player that damages us on the night, so to speak. It wasn't exactly.
In fairness to Kuhn, I think he's had to go and find himself. I don't think he was ever going to be a guy who comes out of the youth and blows away. I think he had to go away. He had to go to Austria, had to go to the Netherlands, he had to go and do these things to get himself, because, I mean, I don't know if you've read any of the stuff. When we signed him last January, and for 6 months Celtic fans were going, this guy's terrible. Do you know what I mean? So I think, in fairness to your club and in fairness to him, I think he's a guy who's had to go get different experiences, play different football. Because if he keeps doing what he's doing at Celtic, then the next level is England or back to Germany. I think Germany's maybe out for him, because I don't see German football paying the money that English football pays for our level of player, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So, like, unless, like, even clubs like, Dortmund or, Bayer Leverkusen or, recent successful teams, they still don't even have, the ability to pay certain, wages and stuff. For, like, the same with us, with RB Leipzig. Like, we've got a set salary cap and things like that. Like you touched on, we don't actually have all this money pumping in to be able to pay thousands and thousands of dollars per player. Like, we're not a PSG or a Man City or something like that. That, yes, there is still financial fair play in that, but they've got a lot of money to to work with when it comes to even just player wages. It's like ridiculous. I mean, I think even Manchester United are one, even though they've really dropped off the face of the earth. That's great for a lot of people in world football, because a lot of people used to not like them. I think they're probably still the same. Have you attended any games of RB Leipzig and Celtic? Like, did you visit any the Red Bull Arena or any?
Like
you
I
did,
said.
yeah.
So I have been to all the. So I played after the other night. We played 3 home games at Celtic Park. I've been at all of them, and then the first time we played Leipzig, I think we could beat 2-0. I was in Leipzig for that. Yeah, I was in for that. God, I'm trying to remember who would have been with it. But anyway, and I never went back because I was going to another one. So I generally only get to 1, maybe 2 European games a season, and I'd pick something else this time, because usually when Germany comes up, I'm like, yes, I'm in, definitely in, because I love Germany. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I've been to the stadium again, an impressive stadium. But I repeat, so when I went to Leipzig, I stayed in Berlin, and then I got the train down. I was with the Celtic fans, and then boom, straight the train back up to Berlin. So I never even got the experience of being amongst Leipzig fans. Hence why I was saying you're kind of the first one, because usually I'm in talking to people. But so yeah, I've been.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I regret myself, is that I've never had the chance at the moment to go over there, to fly over to Germany and go and be in the Red Bull Arena, but that is going to be something that I do way before I finish up with myself on this planet. I can basically say that I don't care if I have to bring my kids over, I have to bring the missus over, or how it's going to go. I haven't sorted that out yet. I mean, I've got a passport, my missus doesn't, but even if I have to just go away for a couple of months, she won't like that. I'm hoping she's not quite listening to me at the moment, but otherwise I'm going to know about it off air a bit later on. So, but I think it's time.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because obviously it's your parents. I think one of your parents is German, or was it both of them?
Both of them. So my parents are from Leipzig and from Kiel, so from northern Germany and also eastern Germany. So and a majority of the family is from eastern Germany, and the rest of us are from northern Germany up in Kiel. So
that was on my to-do list this year as well, to get to
It's
Kiel.
actually a very beautiful place. Like, I've never been able to be gone to Germany before, but my Oma, which is my great nana, Oma is also my nana now at the moment, but my great nana that has passed, she used to tell me all about living over there up in Kiel, and how it was over there and things. It's a very it's like a very easygoing. It's nice and calming. It's like a city of boats almost. Like, it looks like yachts everywhere, and the air is very fresh compared to other places. And and she used to sort of tell me that she used to hate taking a shuttle all the way into Hamburg to how that, because she just didn't like Hamburg, so like she'd have to sometimes take a shuttle to go into town, so to speak. Like Kiel does have it, enough shops and things like that, but then she said something like specialty stores or something. I don't know what it was back then in, like, I think the 50s, I think she's talking about then, but for certain places she'd have to go all the way into Hamburg instead of being in Kiel, so being more of a rural or small city or town,
Class.
So that's a couple of places that I want to go to, is both to Kiel and also back to Leipzig with all my family are at.
Fantastic, mate. Well, I wish you all the health to get there, mate. I wish you all the health to get there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you. So let's recap this game, shall we? I've put it off long enough. But no, so everything's going according to schedule. I'd like to have a bit of a joke if I can, and you're a top bloke for it. So let's recap this game, and I want to know from your perspective, what's your take on our most recent game, how we played against your team, and also how your team played as well.
Right. Like, as you know, I kind of follow the Bundesliga as my second league. I watch enough games. I've seen enough RB over the years to know what kind of. Obviously, Marco Rose was a former BFB manager and stuff like that. Now, how would you explain Leipzig's style of football? I always found that whilst it is a pressing type, it's almost they like to overload defences. They like to have the options. I mean, anytime I've watched all the highlights. Before speaking to you, I watched all the highlights, and every time they attack, there's 4 options. They're all pushing, and it's all mobile. Everybody's switching with everybody. There's a lot of movement and stuff like that. Now, if we go back to the last time we played in the Champions League, so Marco Rose had just joined before he played us. You beat us 3-1, it's away, and then you come back to Celtic Park, and he's won 2-0, and we missed a couple of chances that game. However, that was the most dominant anyone played at that point. Anyone had played us at Celtic Park. You destroyed us 2-0 in that game. Destroyed us. We never get close. And after Dortmund and after Atalanta, I would have been happy with a draw coming up against you guys, because I didn't think we could have matched the movement. Now, I went back and watched, obviously, your game against BFB, the defeat of the weekend was at the same time as our semi-final, so I had to watch the highlights. I was surprised that Dortmund out-pressured you and outworked you. I was really surprised. And I can see the similarities between both games. It surprised me. You took the lead in both games, and then you had that wee spell, and then a goal kind of changed everything, and the heads went and the attitudes went. I am stunned by the football Celtic played, and I'm not saying it was a fluke. I'm saying it's something that has been worked on, and I'll tell you right now, that performance is up there as one of the best Celtic performances I've seen in Europe, because of how we retained the ball. Now, could and probably should Leipzig have put that game out of sight? Yes, he should have. He's got to go, and there was a 10-minute spell. The header goes by the post. You've brushed off Johnson. I don't know, maybe that comes back and he's hit it well wide. But at that point, you're fearing the worst. But for the first 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes, the whole second half, I thought Celtic were really, really, really good. Our midfield play, you've got to understand, in Scotland, our defenders don't need to play passes. Our defenders go right up to the halfway line and we play there, because generally every team sits in. You guys, you're coming up against Stuttgart, you're coming up against Leverkusen, you're coming up against Bayern, you're coming up against Dortmund, you're coming up against these teams who are putting their game on you, so you've got to be better than them in the park. Whereas in Scotland, we've got to be better than defences. So for us to come up against you guys and to win, like you brought up the 60% possession, I'd like to think we imposed our game on you. I do think we maybe caught you at a fantastic time. I mean, if you add in Simons to the team, maybe that changes the dynamics. Yeah, David Ralm's obviously a huge miss as well. Because I remember David Ralm when he was at Greuther Fürth, and I remember watching him going, he's a great player, Greuther Fürth. And he's a great player. And I remember him going to Hoffenheim, and I hoped Dortmund would get him, and he went to you guys. So he's a big loss, but I'd like to think we were better. But I think it's a mixture of both. I think we played extremely well. I think you played a wee bit under yourself, and what happened.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you guys played, you played brilliantly. There's no question about that. There's no dampening your performance in any way whatsoever. And RB Leipzig weren't playing the way that they should be playing and whatnot. So, I mean, the previous podcast, before this one here, I said that it's a 180-degree shift was taken and another one would be needed. So that's from the Dortmund game coming into the game when we played you, because the game previously before the Dortmund game we played in the DFB Pokal and we won 4-2 against St. Pauli. Now, the football that was played on that day in the cup there in the round of 16, I think pretty sure it was a round of 16, was that was the RBL way of football that we've all come to know and now expect, I guess, of our team, and at least. And for me, when we lose, I still expect us to be trying to implement and play that way. And I don't know if it's a little bit of teams are finding us out a little bit now at the moment, or if players are just fatigued or are not mentally up for it at the moment, not just physical fatigue. But like, we're certainly not playing at the standard and at the level of football that we should be playing, and that is really shown against the last two games, including the Celtic game. No knock on your team though. Like, I think you guys played absolutely well. Your press was perfect. You made us play in certain areas where we weren't comfortable in. It's not very often that RB Leipzig defense gets pressed so hard that we end up making mistakes trying to get the ball out of the back. So yes, there's some questions about some of the players, and leading up to our interview in the RBL Talk Segment today, I've gone over a couple of those things and what should have gone better, is because I like to analyse the games in an analytical, tactical type of perspective. But there's no way like you can discredit any of your whole team played well. Like, I was even really impressed by Hatate. With him playing a full 90 minutes as well, and then just several days earlier in your cup final. Which when we played Borussia Dortmund in our Topspiel, and so he's played 90 minutes there, and he's gone out and played another 90 minutes in the Champions League, and he's not only performed very well for the whole 90 minutes, he's even scored a goal. And your whole team, I think the most underrated part of your team was actually the defense when that last, well, I wouldn't say last, it's the From when we first scored that goal, and then when we started trying to start getting into the groove of our actual football, I guess you could say, and we had those chances. We have that little bit of roughly 10 minutes of dominance or so, going up, and then we had that Noosa, Antonio Noosa came up streaming with the ball and absolutely fluffed his lines and shot it high and wide. Like, Kasper Schmeichel is an absolutely great, goalkeeper in world football, even at the age of, I think he's turned just then 38 or something like that.
38,
yeah, and I don't think he was saving that, because it was hit so hard. If the placement was right, that was going straight in at his near post. So, and that there was the movement and the play of how we played. I think we were really lucky to actually get that first goal, though. Coming off the header of one of your centre-backs. I forget the name off the top of my head here. I'd have to actually go have a look at
Was it off your centre-half? Because I slowed it down a couple of times, and I thought your guy got a touch, but did it come off of Kyogo?
No, it looks to come off of Carter Vickers.
Carter Vickers?
Yeah, so I forget the RB Leipzig.
Because I was giving your guy the credit. I was going, by the way, if he's touched that, that's a brilliant header. But
no. So if you watch the replay from it, because I analyse it over and over and over, so I make sure I get these things right. It comes. I almost thought it missed his head completely, and it's just gone straight over. And there's no flick on or anything like that. But there is a deflection, and it does come off number 20, Carter Vickers, the centre back. And I actually thought he played quite well as well.
Yeah.
Out of all yours and out of your centre backs and players as well. Even though allegedly he got one of the worst match ratings on the team sheet for Celtic. Yeah, allegedly.
I thought the big one done well as well.
Yeah, allegedly it was a 6.9. But look,
I'll take it.
Yeah, I thought, and that was maybe because of the conceding of the goal or something like that. I don't know. Like, it wasn't his fault at all whatsoever. And then we go into the other two goals. Like the Kun, what can you tell me about? What do you think about that first goal?
Well, I think he's meant it. I mean, so Kun, like I say, Kun's been almost role reversal on what he was doing. So we'd signed him, and like I said, my mate Andre had kind of says the natural ability this guy's got, it's outstanding. But last season, he seemed so reticent to take somebody on. And he would get to the fullback and the ball would go back. And you're a football fan, how frustrating is that? Just attack him.
Absolutely.
So he's passed it back, and obviously we go over the line. And it was interesting. There was an interview with him at the end of the season, and somebody, our guy, whoever it was, Jerry McCulloch, said to him, are you kind of unhappy that you're only getting a run in the team and the season's finished? And he says, no, I want to have a good pre-season. I want to get to know these guys better. I want to be part of this team and show everybody what I can do. And since the summer, wow, what a player he's done. He's a kind of winger us football fans love. When I was younger, I used to love just hard defenders. Hard. I just wanted to win. I didn't care how we won. And I remember my dad always used to say to me, forget that. Flicks, tricks. This is what we pay the money for. And the older I get, the more he's right. I want to be entertained. I want to see good play. I want to see people taking people on, dropping the shooter. I want to see it. And he's great to watch. He commits guys. And the fact that he's pulling everybody in, even when he's not getting the ball, he's dragging people about, he's making moves. He's a dangerous player. And I thought it was a wonderful goal. I don't even know how you would defend it, because you fling up the idea, is it a cross? Because the way it's floated, you could say it's a cross. I don't know. You look at his face. I think he's mean it. I mean, and you know that's one of the football cheats, don't you? Putting the ball where the goalkeeper can't get it.
Yeah, that's like I said in the recap of this before I brought you onto the show. There's no goalkeeper in world football that would actually be able to save that, because it is pinpoint perfect.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be able to get it into the inside of the post and in, that's basically no goalkeeper. No, it doesn't matter how much they're getting paid or how much talent they have. There's no keeper ever going to be able to save that.
You spoke about Man United earlier on, and you remember Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer used to come off the bench, and week on week he would do that exact thing. Obviously the other side, he'd just put it in the top corner, and you've seen every goalie that far away from the ball. And I think it's a tremendous goal. It's a tremendous goal because the way we played up the park, it wasn't a launch up the park, it wasn't a break, it was sustained. We played up the park, we dragged people about, we done the overlap, he's brought himself in. For Celtic wise, it's a great goal. And I don't, us as football fans, it's very hard to watch a game of football and appreciate the whole game. Because all we're doing is looking at our team and the deficiencies or the positives. We never ever kind of go, see that guy, he's good. Do you know what I mean? He's good. And I thought, I don't even think, I thought it was a good football goal. I didn't think there was any kind of... There was no slips, there was no luck in it and stuff. It was just a good goal, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you with that. And you said before, like, you know, how would you have defended that? Now, in my recap of the actual game, I basically said that you almost can't actually defend that. Because the only thing I said is that there was 3 players there. Now, let's not forget the beautiful flick from Arnie Engels as well to create the chance in the first place. When Engels makes his run, now it sort of looks like he is blocking for Kun to then run. Now that it's not actually blocking or anything in a sense. It's there's 3 players there. If there is Chad El Bishabu, the young 18-year-old centre back from France, and I forget who the other one, Benny Henriks, because it was down on the left hand side. He was playing left back, and then Kevin Campbell was also in the vicinity as well. Now, you watch Kevin Campbell, he goes to run away and he goes to move closer into the box, towards the keeper to try to stop the run from Engels playing to receive the 1-2. Now, what I basically said is that, forget that, don't worry about that. Benny Henrik should have been the one to actually go run with Engels because that's his man, that's his mark, right? Considering that your man's already actually, being played, so you can't just go cover Kun because, well, you're covered by your centre back. So you go cover, the other player. Now with Kevin Campbell, instead of going to run back towards the goal, he should have taken a couple of steps forward and ran at Kun as well. Even though Bishabu's running laterally off him, he could come forward. Then he just has to shift his run and makes the shot harder. Doesn't mean he's not going to be able to get the shot off and still score. It just makes that shot harder, or it's not going to happen at all because he may choose a different option. That's the only way from an RBL perspective I could look at it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like you. You've put a lot of thought into that. But in general, we don't see many of the goals, do we? Because you think the goalkeeper has come off his line almost expecting the cross. And if that cross is short, he's coming out and picking that up, no problem. It's the fact that he's hit it with height and the accuracy. So as you say, it's a harsh man who kind of sits down and goes, "You're to blame." You know what I mean? It's a harsh man. I think it's a tremendously good goal. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, there's no one to blame specifically. It's of like how to negate the actual chance of being able to happen. So at that point, what can you tell me about Arnie Engels' game? Like I thought he was fantastic. I actually thought he could have played the full 90 minutes. I mean, I know there was a recent game as well.
Yeah, I was surprised he came off. He's another interesting guy because he's coming from Augsburg, where he'd spent, if I'm correct, 18 months, and he'd cost £100,000 from Club Brugge's second team, and he made his debut. When he made his debut at the Westfalenstadion, he played every game apart from one that season in centre mid. For £100,000 from a reserve team to go straight into a Bundesliga team, it's quite a thing, and people were bumming him up and stuff. And then last season, he kind of get played about a bit and he was on the bench a lot more. Now, this guy's you're probably the perfect guy to know exactly what I'm talking about here, being a Leipzig fan, is that a lot of the fees we pay are because we are buying young guys and we are paying for their potential. We're not paying X amount.
It's like an investment.
Yeah. So, Arnie Engels, honestly, is a £5 million player. But he's coming from the Bundesliga, he's coming to Scotland, and he's potentially a good player. We were having a discussion, do you think anybody in Germany would have spent 11 million on Arnie Engels? At that point, is he good enough? Judging by where he was he good enough to go in and command a starting place at the clubs who could afford 11? He's not going to go to Munich, he's not going to go to Dortmund. At that point, he's not going to go to Leverkusen. Probably could go to Gladbach and stuff like that, bigger clubs, Stuttgart maybe yourselves. But even then, you might kind of look. So, we've paid £11 million. He's our record ever signing. £11 million. And This guy is only at the start of his career. He's 22, 23. He's at the start of his career. And I've even heard the manager suggest he kind of needs to find where he wants to play. Because he doesn't score a lot of goals. He's played defensive midfield. However, he doesn't play that for us. He's not going to play defensive midfielder for us. So he's got to produce something else. You asked me earlier on, how does Rodgers want to play football? Arne Engels is how we want to play football. We want to give the ball to somebody knowing he's not just going to give it away the first tackle. So he's got to be strong. He's a big tall boy. He's strong in the ball. We went to Dortmund and that fell by the wayside. We lost the ball so cheaply and we get punished. The other night was more where I think Rodgers wants to be. If I give you the ball, I can trust you. See, as Celtic fans, I kid you not, if there's 3 guys and we pass the ball into a guy, we're all panicking as fans because we're like, oh, we're going to lose the ball, they're going to attack. And we managed to drag people in, bring them out, make a third pass, and you were away. We done it all night, and it worked ever so well. I'm used to guys like Leipzig, I'm used to guys like Gladbach, I'm used to Leverkusen turning up, doing that to us with ease. And it was us doing it to you guys. So that's what Engels brings to us. I think Engels has got another 2-3 levels before undoubtedly head down to England, or maybe Germany might take him back, I don't know. But the guy, he's impressing me. I'm good at tangents. I'll take you on a tangent here. I'm going to say something ridiculous here.
Go for it.
I remember I was younger and I never got Clarence Seedorf. Just never got. I would watch games and I'm going, what does he do? What does he do? I mean, he doesn't score loads of goals. He need big hard tackles and stuff. And my mate who played at a decent level said to me, Scott, honestly, just watch him for the whole game. And I came away and I was like, wow, he does not give the ball away. You give him the ball, he'll feed everybody, but he'll always take it back. He'll never lose it. He'll keep the metronome. Throw in the fact he was a monster. And see, ever since that, see if there's somebody in midfield that I can trust, I love them. And that's where Arne Engels is destined to be. Do you know what I mean? He's one of the guys. And I was, like you, I was ever so impressed with him the other night. I think, like I say, I think he's got things to work on. But anybody at Celtic's got things to work on. Everyone. Do you know what I mean? But that's to eventually answer your question.
No, every player needs to work on things, and like I always look at myself as well as like forever evolving, so to speak. There's something I always need to work on. I'm not always the best at this. I'm not always the best at that, and just you always try to do something better than yourself. As long as you're a better person today than you were yesterday, that's the main thing.
So, look at this guy.
So that's the main thing, and the pretty much the motto of the groundwork of what I do. And same thing with the podcast. I try to do as much as the best I possibly can, and and things like that, and bringing guests on you, and like I should say, bringing top quality guests like yourself, as some listeners. As some listeners have already said to me, they're like, Justin, you bring on top shelf guests, keep them coming. And I'm not going to say anything because until the recordings get done, I do have some things in the works throughout the seasons, but there's nothing set in stone. So when they happen, they happen.
To go on that tangent 2 seconds before we come back to football,
sure.
It is really you said it at the beginning. The guests make these. If your guests can come on and they're confident to talk to you and you get that wee rapport, it's brilliant. It's such a buzz when you're sitting talking to people and you're talking about football and they're not giving, yes, I agree, no. Silence on a podcast is minging.
You're literally bouncing off one another. You're talking, and you're basically. It's almost okay. Let's put it this way: if we didn't have the backdrops that we currently had right now, you could quite comfortably see us sitting there having a pint and having a chat and literally talking about football. Me myself, I'm not a drinker, but that's only because I can't help myself when I had been drinking, so I decided to stop.
You're a better man than me. You're a step further on than me because I don't know when to stop, but I still enjoy it.
Well, look, I'll put it this way. there's been things that I've done that I'm probably going to give you a little bit too much information here. But let's say I've done some things that I've done that I wouldn't say I regret. It's made me into the man that I am today.
Made you the man you are. Good man.
But what I will say though is that it's probably not a good look. I wouldn't be telling my kids about it. I'll put it that way.
Aye, good man. Right. Aye. Anyway.
Now we've gone off on a tangent. It's time to bring it back to the football. What did you think the negatives were from a Celtic perspective? Like, what was the things that you could have worked on, like during the game? Because you played brilliantly. There's not many negatives here.
Right. Ironically, from a Celtic point of view, you guys had made your 5 subs, you've been down to 10 men. Goal difference is a thing, and I would like, as somebody who would have bit your hand off for a draw previous to the game, to then be quite frustrated that we never really went for it. However, I do understand it, because even down to 10 men, you guys are still a dangerous team. You just still worked ever so hard. You could have pulled a goal back, and then the goal difference is worse. In terms of us, it's just wee things. There's nothing more specific. It's just basically, when you guys scored, like I'm saying, the truth of the matter is, you guys, however much you don't think you played to the level you should have, or you guys should have been 2-0 up. That's how I see it. You should have. You've had a 10-minute spell. We couldn't get out. Our passing was bad. Our concentration was poor. And yous never punished us. That's the fact of the matter. No matter how well we played, Celtic could easily have been 2-0 down in that game. And that's a different thing altogether. Do you know
Absolutely.
what I mean? So there's obviously that. We've got to tighten up on that. We've got to tighten up that. It's interesting that when I played football, or when I coached football, we've all been involved where everything's going wrong. Boom, 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 boom. You've lost a goal, and you're different. And there's got to be a point where somebody in the pitch goes, for the next 5 minutes, no risks. We're hitting the channels, we're running it. Everybody's staying in position. We're just taking the edge out of the game. And Celtic could do that, but I don't think your manager would allow it. But in regards, is there anything we can improve? See, with regards Celtic, the play-wise, unfortunately, we're just at the stage, we just need to improve player. I mean, Greg Taylor, been a great player for Celtic. I'm very surprised Bally never started, but the rumour goes that Bally's going to be returning Barcelona. Maybe that's for the reason. Maybe upgrade on Greg Taylor. Maybe upgrade, sad to say, upgrade maybe on Kyogo. I don't know. But in terms of the game, I'd be harsh in saying there was anything that stood out, apart from that 10-minute spell, mate.
Yeah, from an RB Leipzig perspective, like there was a lot of things that we could have worked on, and I felt that basically that if I'm going to sum it up into like one word or one thing, for me it's just effort. So after that second goal, going into half time, I really thought that that we could have got a nice pep talk. We could have come out and basically just taken the game on. And I say this very, very regularly on the podcast. I would rather lose, and I said this actually while watching the game. I was at work, funny enough. I was watching the game, and I said I'd rather lose 3-1, right, and then had us taken the game on, and just take it to you guys as much as possible, and get hammered on the counter attack. That's fine, and give up the goals that way, being out of position, because we've just really going for it, really taking the game to you. And then what happened? You got that third goal. And we weren't actually taking it to you. We just conceded. So I said as a joke, it's like the commentator's curse, even though I'm not commentating on this game.
Right. Now you've brought that up, it makes me think, what could Celtic have improved on? Defensive headers. We gave up a good few in the second half. Now I think about it. I mean, you guys, there's big chances. I mean, I've not seen them back properly. I've watched the highlights, but there was two or three at least good point blank headers that way over the bar. So from Celtic edge, I was pretty surprised by your lack of. Right, here we go. I turn around, the guy says, if we can hold on, if we can hold on for the next 15 minutes, we should be in good position. And I thought Celtic kept playing the way they were, and I was expecting more of a reaction from you guys, to be perfectly honest. So I was surprised by that. But even then, like I say, I need to watch the highlights and the headers back. But from the opposite side of the ground, they look like good chances. You can tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't see a whole lot of the part of the second half when it came to the headers on goal from your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I was more so looking at the positional play of some of our back four, as although it has been a little bit of a, I guess you could say, a staggered back four now. By that I'm meaning it's not the traditional back four that we had. I think our squad is quite small and thin. I've been saying that from the start of the season, and then we started having the big long-term injuries, and it's just been going downhill pretty much ever since. And look, at the end of the day, you've got to be prepared for injuries. It's one of those things that unfortunately happens in world football. It doesn't matter what player you are, you've been injured sooner or later. Like a dead leg or something, or you've overextended something, and you've pulled a back muscle or something like that.
Skiing injury, they ones.
Yeah, that's it. Is there anything else you would like to talk about the game, Scott?
No, mate, no. I mean, like I say, I was ever so happy when I came out. I was absolutely delighted. I was delighted by it. I mean, that's obviously I would say a compliment to you guys as well I hold Leipzig in high esteem in terms of European football, but that kind of pretty much the second goal you gave up was almost a Celtic goal, we would call it, under no pressure, try to be too fancy and getting caught on it, and then Maeda swinging a big fresh air and just a tap in. Do you know what I mean? If Maeda hits it, it probably goes over the bar. Do you know what I mean? So I think we got a good night catching you guys. We caught a wee bit of luck. Galassi flinging the ball right to Hatati's hands. So, but I'll take it. I'll take it every day of the week.
I did do a live stream just recently about as a recap for the game, just as like a podcast first, just to see how things go with doing like live stream recaps for big games. I'm thinking of possibly doing it going into the future because it was actually pretty good. One of the people who commented on that live stream, they highlighted it. They said that I think it was Maeda that did the fresh air, as you said. He meant it allegedly because he was having he had a big grin. So you don't think he didn't think he meant it? No chance at all.
Man.
No chance. Alrighty. Well, just finishing up now, Scott. It's been a pleasure so far talking to you.
And you, brother. Brilliant.
Where we tell the listeners where they can find you. Anything you'd like to plug? Anything that you do personally, your podcast, and everything like that.
Right. Okay. So I'm on X, Elon Musk X, that guy. I'm on that, and you can get me at my name at Scott McCorry. Don't post a lot. Generally post about Celtic. Football in general, make comments and stuff like that, but nothing really. If you ever want to watch a show, I don't know why any of your supporters would want to, but at HomeBhoys on Twitter, we're HomeBhoys, we've got a YouTube page, the HomeBhoys, you can get our stuff there, and that's pretty much it, mate. That's the only wares I've got to sell.
No, I think I'll be definitely tuning into one of your HomeBhoys episodes and see what all the rave is about, because it sounds
it's good. It's good stuff like this, mate, for us to build up a wee bit of connection. And if you're needing somebody that I know, because that's always been a great thing for me. There was a fantastic guy, Michael Statham, I think his second name was Statham, and he covers Netherlands football. And he's got me guessing, I've got him guessing, I've been on his show and stuff like that. So see this, I struggle with Atalanta. I couldn't get an Atalanta guy, but I've got Club Brugge and I've got Dynamo Zagreb. But like I say, if ever you're coming up against a team you don't have a contact, maybe I could help you out, you could help me out. So always good to know.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to go on anyone's show. All they need to do is just basically contact me either on the podcast email account or any social media or anything like that. If you ever need a guest or anything like that, for RB Leipzig, let me know. If you need a guest for anything else in the Bundesliga, even though we're not very well liked, I do know people that do speak to us, so that is okay. I'll be able to see what I can do to help you out there. I've got that surprise question as well, Scott. It's not a surprise anymore.
It is a surprise because I've read it and I forgot what it is, so let's go.
Alrighty, so here we go. The show tradition is closing out the show with a question saying, what's one question you wished I'd have asked you and how would you have responded?
God, I wish I read it now. Right, okay, well, I'm going to ask myself this question, and I'm going to ask the question back to you. How's this? Because I often finish my own podcast with this. So the question I generally finish is, what's your hopes for your club for this season, and what's your hope for the club going forward? So this season, as per with Celtic, I hope we win every domestic trophy. I hope we beat Rangers every time. I hope we beat Rangers by 4 or 5 every time we beat them. If Rangers go out of existence again, that would be fantastic. But Europe-wise, as we sit just now, if we can get one more win, we are looking good for the playoffs. Now, if we could make the top 8, that's dreamland stuff, considering where we are, but we'll put ourselves in a good position. We've got Club Brugge next. They had a fantastic win last night. I'm looking forward to playing them. But if we beat them, we're as good as in the playoffs. And I think that's excellent. Considering I stood in the Westfalen Stadium and watched my team get demolished in such a brutal way. I can't stress how affected I was with this. I don't think I spoke to anybody for weeks. Oh, devastated. So to be where we are, I'm so proud of the club, I'm so proud of the team. Well done to the manager and the players. Long term, I would like us to get to a point, as you described us, and we live up to that maybe they're not thinking, oh, Celtic are a great team, but we're treated with a wee bit of respect and people think there's a club there, and guys like yourself get the opportunity to come over and experience the stadium and experience the people and have a good time, but obviously get beat. So, I'll ask it back to you. RB Leipzig, what's your hopes for this season and what's your hopes for the club in general?
Well, that's a very good question there, Scott. So, my hopes for this season is, I'll start with the Champions League as the main topic of this episode, is I hope we can get into at least that round of 24. So that's at least winning, I would say, 2-3 is more ideal of the next 4 games, which is going to be difficult because we've got Inter Milan, we have Aston Villa, both teams going fantastic at the moment. Then we've got Sporting as well, who are also no slouch at the moment either. And then we rounded up with Strumgraz. And there's no disrespect to Strumgraz, but they would be the weaker of the 4 there. So,
of course.
So let's say you take the 3 points for Strumgraz. Now you need to beat at least 2 of the rest and then hope other results go your way, which is unfortunately, we're the position that we're at the moment. So if we can get into that round of 24, fantastic. But I'm not got my hopes up or anything for it. But look, I back the manager and I back the players until it's obviously not mathematically possible. So, that's what you do as a fan. You always be optimistic as much as possible. And then domestically, I hope that we get top 4 minimum. And considering that, if you look at everything else that we've got going on this season, the only other thing would be the DFB Pokal, which we come up with, I believe it was Eintracht Frankfurt coming up soon, so in the next round of that cup. So I would say that we get into the final at the very least, as we are still one of the best teams in the Bundesliga. Yeah. Even
we claim your trophy, is that what you're saying? It's your trophy, isn't it? I mean, last year was a bit of a blip, but 2 years in the bounds.
Yes, it was Leverkusen that did get it last year. They did a fantastic season, and they've even dropped off a little bit this season.
Exactly.
So, but they're still a great team, still really well drilled by Xabi Alonso. So there's no. They're not going to be easy beats anyway, even if we did beat them this season. So Going forward, I would say holding on to our best players.
Right.
I love the model of, being able to get players, for cheap or anything like that, and then building them up, and that really got really good scouts. Being able to pick, good talented players in world football that you look at the person and go, who's this guy? Never heard of him. And
Exactly.
then 3 seasons later, it's everyone's talking about. So. These type of players I would like to start keeping and then start pushing for the Bundesliga title.
Yeah.
We've shown this season that we could even possibly push to the Bundesliga title this season. But if you said you were following the Bundesliga itself, that we're miles ahead. I'm sorry, not miles ahead. We're miles behind Bayern Munich at the moment. So there's no way
Really good there.
Yeah, they're doing very good at the moment. I think maybe last season was a bit of a blip for how bad they played, even though they weren't too bad. They still got second.
You say last season, I mean, let's be honest about it, it's been the last 3 seasons, I would say. I mean, the fact that they got the trophy under Tommy Tuchel because Dortmund shut the bed. I mean, that day Celtic won the league and I'm cutting about these 2 flags, and then I get the message 2-0 down. I was like, oh, what? But,
yeah.
Aye. So
yeah, as Australians say, it's allegedly an English term. Dortmund bottled it that year. So
bottled it, definitely bottled it. Yeah,
they bottled it. So yeah, that's pretty much what what I'm looking forward to going ahead for the club. For some of us, some of us are starting to get a little bit of more. I wouldn't say inflated egos or heightened expectations, but they're starting to say, that we are going to, we should be at a certain stage. Like, we should already be winning the Bundesliga trophy. But, like, I always keep saying that, this is, trust the process. You look where we're at the moment. Not just so long ago. We were back in the 3rd division of German football, So, and I know a lot of fans, and, we're going to be building a lot of fans coming through as well, being the success of the club and how the club, is the model of itself and things like that. But for us supporters that have been around for a lot longer than that, it's happened so fast that even sometimes I just think of just the level of where we've been at from where we were and how quick we got there. But we'll get there one day, but we're not at the point at the moment where the squad that we've got, we should be looking at and go, if Marco Rose doesn't win that league, he gets the sack. We're not close to that yet. So, but we're slowly building there, and I still back Marco Rosa to get the job done so far. But there are some questions that need to be had about his tenure, just in what is happening, and if how bad it gets, basically. So. But I've also got some fan submissions after this recording that I will go into, and I've got a couple of questions on there. One even says, should Marco Rosa should be sacked? So if you would like to know...
Get clopping, that's a shout, isn't it?
So if you would like to know what those questions are, please make sure to go listen to the rest of the episode over on wherever you listen to this. Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for your company. I've had a ball listening and talking to you, and just having a general chat about 2 teams that we love.
Good man, Justin. Thanks again. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for coming home for your work at 2:30 in the morning to speak to this idiot. But you're a gentleman, and good luck and everything. And I really, really hope you save all the pennies and get you and your family back to Germany and have a wee trip, pal.
Thank you, Scott. If you would like to see more guest videos like this one, make sure that you smash that like button and also comment along as well on the YouTube videos. It really helps out the algorithm. It also helps me be able to bring in more guests like Scott. And please make sure to go check out all Scott's work and also the podcast that he does as well. So until next time, I've been Justin Crozer. Bye-bye for now.